Hello and welcome to Smash Hit Sports. Labor Day has come and gone, and while summer ending does kind of suck, especially for people who got to go to school, all that kind of stuff, this is the best time of the year. Fall, as I've gotten older, Jake, fall has increasingly become like far and above the best season. Am I alone in this take?
No, you're not. Like, I enjoy summer. It's fun, but nothing's on. Like, I can watch golf and DJing my ass off in baseball, but nothing's like a full weekend of football sitting on your ass, watching the Friday night game after the Thursday night game, and then a full day Saturday and a full day Sunday. There is nothing like it, and I always say that Thanksgiving is the best sports weekend or the best sports week of the year. I will always stand by that, but nothing is like the first couple weeks in September when you get those first two full football weekends of the season with Saturday and Sunday.
I love the Thanksgiving take because that's feast week, so you get like a great exhibition college basketball games, you get college football. I don't know. Let's today, because we're talking NFL today. Are you a fan of the NFL encroaching on Black Friday football? Because I loved how that was like exclusively college, but now the NFL is playing games on Black Friday. Are you a fan of that or no?
So they're playing games on Thursday and Friday now. Is that
Yes.
new this year?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, because Black Friday is always a really big college football day. I actually didn't know that.
Yep.
So I'm kind of on the spot now. Yeah, I had no idea. It's fine. So now we get games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? Because there's games Saturday
I don't think the NFL does Saturday that weekend because that's.
Oh, not yet. The Saturday games start in December. It might be. Yeah. So you get 3 out of 4 days for NFL on Thanksgiving week. It's whatever. I mean, I don't really think it's that big of a deal personally, because recently the Thanksgiving games have like been horrible matchups. Like we haven't gotten a really good matchup in a long time on Thanksgiving. I feel like, so maybe we'll get some better matchups on Friday once the schedule I guess the schedule's probably already out.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
And it's just one game. It is
it's just one.
Dog just ran through the background. It's just one game. It is the Jets at Dolphins. So
all right,
one game, primetime slot. It's not like we are doing a full slate of games like when the NFL does the Saturday stuff, or Thanksgiving. But one game, they kind of sprinkle it in there. I don't hate it, but like at the same time, I don't.
Is it during the day or is it at night? Is it like primetime 2:30 spot or is it primetime like 7 o'clock? Eastern, 8 Eastern.
I'm looking, and it just says that it's going to be on Amazon. So I'm assuming that it's going to be like an 8:30 kickoff.
Yeah, that's fine because college football, there's always the tons of games during the day, so that'll be all right. Like I doubt that there's going to be like a primetime rivaling college football matchup on Black Friday.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get into the NFL, and I have to open. We are both Bengals fans, and I keep doing my season-long predictions, and I keep sitting here, and I feel like I'm being biased, and I feel like a homer, and I hate doing that in my content, but I keep thinking that the Bengals are going to be a Super Bowl contending team. So before we start with anything NFL-related outside of Cincinnati, what are your thoughts on the Bengals this year? Am I delusional for thinking that we are going to go on another deep playoff run, or is this just, hey, this is the standard now, Joe Burrow's him, and we're making a run for a soupy?
I think that you could say a lot about that they've been the beneficiary of some good luck and good fortune in the later parts of the last 2 seasons, but I think at this point you'd be pretty naive if you wouldn't put the Bengals in any type of Super Bowl bubble. I mean, you look at the pieces that the Eagles have lost and 2 coordinators. They're still widely known as the best team in the NFC. I don't think they are, but we can get into that later. And they lost their 2 coordinators. The Bengals didn't. Both their coordinators are back. Everybody's back except their 2 safeties who have been replaced with younger and faster players who are going to be just as good, if not better. But with the Bengals, it's on the offense, and everybody's back. The whole band's back together. They have a franchise left tackle now in Orlando Brown. This is the best offensive line Joe Burrow's had. So the conclusion of this story is you're pretty much naive if you do not consider the Bengals in that conversation. They went into Buffalo and steamrolled them as a 7-point dog at some places. I get it, like it was in the snow and everything, that you can't really pass rush on the snow, but look what Buffalo's had to go through. Just looking inside the division, they have a very young Pittsburgh team who I like, a Baltimore team who is already depleted in the secondary, and it's only September. That line might open up at 5 or 6 next week, Bengals hosting Baltimore. So we'll see how Baltimore looks against Houston. But to kind of close this out, like, yeah, they are absolutely in that conversation. They're my Super Bowl champions. They weren't last year. I think that they would actually take a step back last year. They almost did. They started 4-4 and then won 10 games in a row, breaking the all-time the all-time franchise record for winning streak. And they really evolved on offense, and they fixed their cover 2 problems. They're trying harder to run the ball. And at times they've even abandoned the run and become more pass heavy. They're the most pass heavy team in the league now. So they're doing all the things right, and it's to a point where this is make or break year. This is the year.
Yeah, there was a time early in the season where I was legitimately concerned about Zach Taylor, and it was when we were getting in the I formation with Joe Burrow early in the season. I just why do we keep doing this? It doesn't seem like it fits. It seems like we strayed away with what we did at the end of the 2021 season, and they recognized that, they adapted, and they got back into rhythm, which I think is the mark of a good coach, that you can make adjustments for, how your team is playing and what they're doing. But the AFC North might be the most competitive division in professional football, and I don't think that's an understatement. You have the Ravens, who, what an offseason for Baltimore. 6 months ago, we were talking about this might be it. Like, they're going to trade Lamar Jackson. He demands a trade. They have no weapons. There's nothing exciting about this Baltimore team. And then they extend Lamar. They give him the extension that, quite frankly, he deserves. He is damn good. That's a discussion for, maybe some offseason stuff, but he deserved the extension. He got it. They drafted Zay Flowers. They brought in Odell Beckham Jr. Like, they got some pieces for him, and I think that's really interesting going forward. What are your thoughts on the rest of the AFC North and who can contend in this?
Well, I think Pittsburgh is the second best team. I personally do. They really scare me. Yeah, and I'm going to be saying some things on the pod that you might question, but it's, we'll see. No, I think Pittsburgh's absolutely loaded. But it's more so of fading Baltimore because, look, yeah, you're right. Like, the Lamar thing was weird. It seemed like he quit on them. It seemed like they quit on him. And then after all this talking and all this playing hardball, the Ravens gave him exactly what he wanted after pissing him off for 10 months. So it was like this weird kind of snowballing effect of, well, what actually happened, and then he gets the deal and it's all fine. They bring in Odell, sure, whatever, has not played since 2021 when he tore the ACL, and they bring in Zay Flowers, who's going to be really, really good as a rookie. Can Bateman stay healthy? I don't know. Can Odell stay healthy? I don't know. Is Zay Flowers actually going to be effective? I don't know. Munkin's going to be really good. He's going to change a lot of stuff. They're going to go out of their old ways of just not being able to maximize Lamar's potential. But my concerns around the defense for Baltimore, because this is where I think Pittsburgh's going to have him, because for the first time in what feels like the Lamar era, Baltimore does not have that go-to pass rusher on the edge unless Odafe Oweh takes that next step, which is a big if. He has to, and I don't necessarily know if he will. He was a good player last year. Took a big step in year 2 from where he was in year 1 as a rotational guy on that loaded 2021 Baltimore front. And then now last year they get Roquan Smith, but they didn't really have that lockdown go-to third and long pass rusher get him a sack like every other team in the division has. I mean, you look at Cleveland, they have Myles Garrett, especially T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith with Pittsburgh, and then Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard with Cincinnati. Baltimore doesn't really have that. This is like Baltimore's worst front in the last couple of years. The secondary is all hurt. They really don't have a corner 2, and the corners 2, 3, and 4 are already hurt, and Marlon Humphrey is also hurt too, and he's not playing next week against Jamar Chase, and we know how that goes because we've seen it twice. So Baltimore, I'm kind of in fade mode. I don't mind Cleveland, but it's been the same story for Cleveland ever since they hired Stefanski. Now Watson in a full year, we'll see. But I really like Pittsburgh this year. Pickett, hate the preseason narratives, but Pickett really looked like he has taken a step forward based on some of the reads and throws and the way that his mechanics look in preseason. I think their wide receivers are as loaded as they've been in quite some time since AB left, and the defense is still going to be really good. They're going to go 4 or 5 deep on the pass rush. Their secondary is loaded, and the linebackers are really good too. So this team, and you have the Mike Tomlin effect as well. And the offensive line isn't going to be terrible like it was last year. Still the weak point of the team. But this Pittsburgh team is going to surprise people really early in the year. They're going to win on Sunday. I don't promise you, but I really, really think they're going to win week 1 against San Fran at home. And then it's going to go uphill from there and be like, well, we should have seen this coming. It's a quarterback in year 2. He has a great veteran head coach and multiple star players on defense. It's like every surprise team that happens in this league ever, and it's going to be mid-November, and people are going to be kicking themselves because they're going to remember, well, that's kind of how the league works. This is exactly what we should have thought of in July with Pittsburgh, and we didn't.
Yeah, you might be the first person I have talked to, interacted all offseason that is high on Pittsburgh, and I don't hate that take, because if I'm willing to bet on a team and a franchise and a coach to consistently be there and be well coached and to show up every Sunday, like the Pittsburgh Steelers have been the pinnacle of that in my lifetime. So I don't hate that.
The guys never had a losing season.
It's insane.
And it's not like they got any worse. Like they really improved. I like what they did in the draft, but they return all their all their good players from last year. A team that went 7-2 in their last 9 games once Pickett really figured it out. That Vegas game in the cold was fantastic, going on the road in a short week, and or not a short week. It was Sunday night, but wait, no, it was a short week. It was a Thursday night. But anyways, yeah, on a short week, going to Pittsburgh, beating a Raiders team that was in every game last year, and that was week 12 or it was late in the year, but Pickett didn't have many games under his belt. That was a rookie doing that. So I can only imagine what he's going to do when he inevitably takes that year 2 step that every quarterback always takes, that ends up surprising people, and it's going to be like, well, we should have seen it coming.
Yep, and he was the best quarterback in that class for a reason. Let's talk the rest of the AFC, because the AFC is a really interesting pick. The AFC is significantly stronger than the NFC, in my mind. From when I do my playoff picture and my playoff predictions, I have a hard time pushing out AFC teams, whereas in the NFC, I have a hard time pulling who's going to be in those wild card spots. How do you feel about some of these teams that haven't been in the playoffs and people are now high on, or at least not been in the playoffs consistently? Because Aaron Rodgers obviously changes things with the Jets. People are high on the Jags. I think they're minus odds-on favorites to win that division. You have people who are high on the Chargers because they brought in Kellen Moore as their OC. They drafted Quentin Johnston. There are things to be positive about. What are your thoughts on the rest of this AFC playoff picture?
Well, we can start with teams I'm going to be looking to fade early in the year, and you mentioned that the 2 teams. I actually like the Chargers this year, so I would like to. The Chargers-Dolphins game is the only game on the board that I didn't bet. I just don't know what I'm going to get from either team. We'll see how Kellen Moore looks. Kellen Moore was really bad last year, but I think in a new setting with the different quarterback, I'm not going to be disrespectful to Dak, because way too many people are being disrespectful to Dak and say that Herbert and Dak are just different, or Herbert's way better. I'm not going to do that. But Kellen Moore was bad last year, so I'm interested to see how he looks in with new scenery. But the teams that you mentioned were the Jags and the Jets, 2 teams I'll be looking to fade, 2 teams I am fading in week 1. I had the Jags at 10 wins, but I have them losing to Tennessee twice and losing the tiebreaker. I like Tennessee a lot this year. I think that they were the better team for 17 and a half weeks last year, and Josh Dobbs almost went into Jacksonville, and if it wasn't for a backwards fumble, up 7 in the fourth quarter, the Titans win that division with a hospital team and missing 5 games of Ryan Tannehill. Now Tannehill's back. Everybody on the defense is back. The pass rush is back. The O-line is not great, but there's not really much of a pass rush threat in that division, so I'm not crazily worried. The Jaguars, people think they're going to take this massive step forward, but this defense was really bad last year. They were fortunate to win a Ravens game in November, the Cowboys game in December, and then the Titans game in January that won them the division. There was some crazy stuff that happened at the ends of those games that gave the Jaguars wins, where they were 3-8, I think, mid-season, and then kind of had this coming out party against, I forget who it was, but Trevor was on fire. I love Trevor. But people expect this team to take this massive step forward. Yes, Calvin Ridley is back, but this defense is still very suspect. They're going to be bottom 10 against the pass, in my opinion. So I think the Jacksonville hype should be on pause a little bit. I look for value elsewhere in that division, and I see it with the Titans at 4-1. The Jets, I'm in complete fade mode simply because of their schedule early in the season. I get that's Aaron Rodgers, and like he might be schedule proof or might be like new home proof, but this is something he's never had to do, and he has to do it at 40 years old with a team that has been dusted in turmoil for my entire lifetime. Like, people just expect that this Jets team that went through a lot last year is just going to add Aaron Rodgers and become a top 3 team in the league without no hiccups. And hosting Buffalo week 1, it's just going to go smooth sailing. They're going to win that game. No, they're not. So I think the Jets stuff needs to be a little on pause. I like the Jets' outlook more than the Jaguars, but with that schedule they have first 6 weeks, I'll be fading them until they show me they can figure it out and don't play 6 of the best 10 teams in the league in the first 6 weeks of the year. So there's that with the Jets. I do have both those teams missing the playoffs. I am high on the Patriots this year. Simply because Matt Patricia's no longer calling plays, so I like that. I actually like Bill O'Brien. I like Joe Judge back with the special teams. That was a huge issue last year for them because Joe Judge was gone. Now he's back. Mac Jones will take a huge step forward this year. I can almost guarantee it to you. And then the defense is still going to be one of the best in the league. So I like the Patriots this year a lot more than the Jets. I have them in the playoffs, and then I also have the Chargers and the Steelers out of the North along with Cincinnati. And Baltimore missing. So I do have 2 teams with 10 wins missing the playoffs. I have the Jags at 10 wins and the Ravens at 10 wins missing the playoffs. And as you said, it's hard to pick teams to get to miss out on the playoffs. It's pretty hard because all these teams are really good and there's some fantastic quarterbacks that I have outside of the playoff picture. But it's the beast of the conference this year, and the NFC is the exact opposite. You're trying to find these average quarterbacks that people want to hype up and say, "Oh, they're better than Dak Prescott," and put them in the playoffs. And I just can't do it. It's hard.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think we're going to come to a very quick realization. There are some quarterbacks that can elevate teams to places that they should not be or would not be without them. And most quarterbacks are not those kinds of quarterbacks. It is your Patrick Mahomes, it is your Tom Brady's, I get Joe Burrow, probably Josh Allen even. But there are quarterbacks who are really good, but they're not going to be able to overcome the deficiencies, at least at this stage in their career, that their teams have. And I think Trevor Lawrence is one of those. The Patriots is a shocking one to me, especially considering their win total is 7.5, but I don't hate that. I mean, people have lost a lot of money over the years betting against Bill Belichick, and that is something that I don't know if I'm willing to do. So that being said, my AFC playoffs, I have the Bengals winning the AFC North, the Bills winning the East. The AFC South, I do have the Titans winning that as well. Plus 310 is on FanDuel, 4-1 odds on other sports books. It's just insane to me that a team that has been consistently very good over the last several years that doesn't have much change is 3 or 4-1 to win that division, especially because it was just injuries last year. Like it really, truly, they were just decimated with injuries. And I like Vrabel as a head coach. And then the AFC West, it's going to be the Chiefs. Like if Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are there, it's going to be the Chiefs. I don't have any faith. Do you have any faith in this Broncos team bringing in Sean Payton?
It's more pessimism than faith. I just have to see it. Because people talk about Russ and think he's going to be a lot better because of Sean Payton, and then just immediately ignore the 17 games that they saw last year. I get there was a lot going on, and I get some receivers went down, and the offensive line was a mess, and the defense was fine, but not as good as they were the year before. But it happened, and he was consistently missing guys over the middle of the field, which is like what everybody was talking. Everybody who has seen Russ play his last 2 years with Seattle said he has lost his vision over the middle of the field, and he did it in his first year in Denver. So we'll see if Sean Payton can fix that, but I can't buy any stock with Denver until I see it. So like if I see it, it's going to be a situation where I'm like, okay, fine, like I believe it. Like I'm fine with Russ being good again with Payton. But I'm not going to be the hero and say that he's going to get back to being a top 10 quarterback just because of Sean Payton coming in, who hasn't coached in a year, and this team is nowhere near as talented as those Saints teams that were loaded from 2015 or from like 2016 to 2019-ish, and like really, really good Saints teams. That's not this Broncos team. The defense will probably take another step back. The O-line's still not there yet, and the receivers get hurt literally every single year. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a team that like I just don't. I'm not buying it. They still have a lot of the same personnel, and at the end of the day, like you could blame Nathaniel Hackett all you want. Like the team just underperformed. Like they didn't show up, and you could say it's coaching. You could say it's I don't know. It's a little bit of everything. Yeah. It's not just one dude, and Sean Payton's not just going to come in and fix that. But let's move over to the NFC because the NFC is a much different conference. I'm not nearly as excited to watch NFC football this year as I am to watch AFC football. The Detroit Lions, a team that has not won a playoff game in since 1991, I believe, and a team that has won one playoff game in the history of their franchise. They are fourth to win the NFC right now at 8-1. I don't understand that. I do, don't get me wrong, I like Dan Campbell, but I don't understand that. But if that is the case for this conference, that just tells you how bad of a spot this conference is in. It's desolate.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's simply because these teams haven't been like otherworldly bad where they've been in a spot to get a quarterback. I mean, you look at Atlanta, their worst finish the last couple of years was number 4, and they drafted Kyle Pitts in that quarterback-heavy draft. The Bears got the number 1 overall pick, but they traded up for Fields, so they don't really have a quarterback problem. I mean, the bad teams, Washington have been dreadful. They haven't finished inside the top 5 in the draft in a while. The Cardinals will probably get the number 1 or number 2 pick this year, so they'll break that trend. The Lions elected to trade for Jared Goff instead of taking a quarterback. So now these teams that have made these moves are changing the course of the conference with good coaching, good defense, but there's been some lackluster quarterback play simply because these teams have not finished or have not been in a spot where it's like, oh, the Bengals are bad. Dalton's contract expires. I can cut him for free, and they have the number 1 pick. So they kind of fall upwards in getting Joe Burrow. Same thing with the Jags. They're really, really bad. And then they hire Urban Meyer, and they have the number 1 pick. So they take Trevor. Like, that just hasn't been the situation in the NFC. But I'm interested to see the Lions. I don't buy it. I'm much more excited about Jordan Love. I'm much more excited about Dak Prescott with a chip on his shoulder. I'm much more excited about Bryce Young, personally. I don't buy the Lions. I think that this is a team that halfway through the year wanted to fire their coach because they were on pace to have the worst defense in the history of the sport, and now 10 months later, because they caught magic in the bottle at the end of the year, go on the road to Lambeau and beat a Green Bay team in a weird game, and now people are trying to cash in their Super Bowl tickets and book their trips to Vegas for Super Bowl, whatever it is, to see the Lions face off against the Chiefs. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this team, is Jared Goff really going to take another huge step forward like he did last year, or was that his ceiling? Because his ceiling is still Jared Goff, the guy who can't go on the road and win, the guy who can't play well in outdoors and cold weather. And it's the Jared Goff that we know and loved in L.A. He had one good year with McVay, and then was terrible. They move him because they realized he wasn't a Super Bowl quarterback. Is he suddenly going to turn into one with Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson? Like, he looked like a good quarterback last year, but he still couldn't go on the road and win for the most part. And like, when the lights come on, it's still Jared Goff. And so the people trying to convince themselves that this team is something that they're not is mind-boggling to me. It's crazy. I think Green Bay is way more talented up front on defense and the back end on defense, and they're gonna have a quarterback with sky-high upside who can make all the throws, who can escape the pocket. And the coaching isn't even close. Like I don't care how many motivational speeches you show me about Dan Campbell. Matt LaFleur will run circles around Dan Campbell, in my opinion. Even though they did beat him twice last year, but this Green Bay team is right where they want to be, where the expectations nowhere to be found. They got rid of the dark cloud that was Aaron Rodgers, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. So I think that they're going to go back to doing what they do, and that's running the football behind their really good offensive line with those two really good backs and playing good defense, which they were really unlucky last year at times. That Green Bay team should have been a lot better than what they actually were, and I'm looking for them to win that division.
At plus 350, I mean, that's not bad at all. I don't hate that one bit. I don't believe in the Vikings. That defense is terrible. It only got worse. They are one of the oldest defenses in the league. They're slow. I don't expect them to keep up with anybody. But like you said with the Lions, like they're just not good defensively. And their solution to that was drafting Jack Campbell in the first round, which was a incredible reach, and also drafting a running back in the first round, which I get it, but
yeah, I mean they signed a couple of free agents on defense. They signed a corner from Pittsburgh, but this defense was atrocious last year. Like I seriously have no idea how Green Bay didn't score on them in the last week of the year at home. This defense was almost as bad as Minnesota's. Like it was on pace to be the worst defense of all time. Then they catch lightning in a bottle, go on this run, and go from being completely out of it to needing a Seattle loss to getting into the playoffs in Week 18. But the strength of this team is the offensive line, and everywhere else, like they have good backs, but everywhere else is below average. Their receivers are below average. It's just with Jameson Williams out for 6 games, like with him out, their receivers are below average. Their front seven's really, really bad. Their secondary is a little bit better, but it's still really bad. And like I'm looking at Warren Sharp's preseason rankings right here. He has the Lions as the 27th best front seven and the 23rd best secondary. Like that's not winning a division. Absolutely not.
Yep, I don't hate that at all. We talk about guys taking a jump in that second and third year, and we now have Justin Fields going into his 3rd season. You add DJ Moore, who, if he played his entire career for the Bears, he would be the Bears' all-time leading receiver. You get the guy a weapon. Chase Claypool should be healthy, whatever your thoughts on Chase Claypool are, and Darnell Mooney. Do you think that Justin Fields is the guy in Chicago? Do you think he is their quarterback of the future?
Well, it depends what kind of answer you're looking for. Like, are you asking me to tell you that he's on the right track to win a Super Bowl like Trevor Lawrence is? I wouldn't say that, but I do think that they have a guy in Justin Fields where it's not worth it to go into the tank another year and tank for Caleb Williams and be bad again, because anything can happen. You have your guy, he's the guy. But now it's in his hands. Like this is still a situation where if he's not good this year, that he is seen as a bust, and the plan didn't work, and the Chicago quarterback turmoil history gets one more deeper. It just gets one deeper, and it gets one worse. But no, I'm a Fields guy. I've always been a Fields guy. They haven't really done him any favors. But he hasn't done them any favors, and he's been really, really bad and really, really inefficient as a passer. He was 32nd in dropback EPA per play last year. And look, I have this little thing that I do with Bears fans on Twitter. I tweeted this after the Falcons game. It was like, by the way, after the Patriots game, they did not win a single game on after October 24th last year. They lost their last 10 of the year. They were awful. But Justin Fields became like the greatest quarterback ever. He became like Lamar and Michael Vick into one, right? He has not won a game since the Bears fans claimed him as this Jesus kind of person he can run for 1 million yards a game and run for all these touchdowns. He's 0 for 10 and since becoming that guy, since becoming everybody's favorite fantasy football quarterback. So DJ Moore will help. But there's still a lot of things that I need to see with this offense and the defense. Defense was just as bad. Defense was awful last year. It was one of the worst in the league. So they're on the right track. They're kind of at like remember the 2020 Bengals? They were like really competitive before Burrow went down. They made all these free agent moves. Now I know Fields isn't in his rookie year, which certainly helps that he's more polished and has played a shit ton of NFL games. So they're not trotting a rookie quarterback out there with the league's worst defense and the league's worst offensive line like Cincinnati was doing in 2020. But you like good NFL rebuilds happen fast. Like the Bengals did it perfectly, and it happened in less than 2 years, or like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
The Bears, this shit shouldn't take this long. Like they should be competitive really early in the season, and if they're not, then Eberflus is on the hot seat, and Fields will be categorized as a bust, which isn't the end of the world. He can still play out of it, but once you get into that situation, it's like, well, can he come back from it? Can he have a great season? Probably not. So it's make or break for Fields as much as it is for anybody at this point. And we're seeing what's going on with the Trey Lance stuff, and I think that's a completely different situation. But shit moves fast in this league, and if you're not winning, you're shit's going wrong.
Hey, if you ain't first, you're last, in the words of Ricky Bobby, the one of the great philosophers of our age. Let's talk a little more positive about the NFC. Who are a couple teams that you're high on, that you are either taking the over on their win total, or you're betting some futures on them? What are a couple teams in this conference that you believe in?
Yeah, so my favorite thing about this sport is it's so different. And the way that I think about this sport, I think I have a very unique way of thinking. And it's really funny because people always yell at me when they see my picks, and then I show them that I was up 54 units last year, and they're like, "Oh, okay. So like, what's the play in week 1 then?" I'm like, "Well, I just told you my futures, and you said that I suck. So why do you want my plays for week 1?" I want everybody to put money on Dallas. This team is absolutely loaded. I've been on Dallas in the regular season the last 2 years. They're one of 2 teams the last 2 years to win 12 games, both years, the other being the Chiefs. And I faded them in the playoffs both years against San Fran. Great spots for San Fran, and they lost both those games. I'm not doing that this year. And, I hate saying this, but this is my Super Bowl team the rest of the year. This team is so good. Dak Prescott is the most underappreciated, most disrespected player in the entire league. Let me give you this stat. So Dak Prescott threw 15, I think, picks last year. He only had 19 turnover-worthy plays. So that was like really bad turnover luck. So all of the turnover-worthy plays ended up turning into interceptions, and some interceptions weren't even turnover-worthy plays, which is like ridiculously unlucky. Josh Allen had 27 turnover-worthy plays. He had 8 more than Dak Prescott, and people praise Josh Allen for his erratic throwing nature and his erratic play with just, he throws all these big touchdowns. When he throws, it's like the meme, the Gordon Ramsay meme where it's like, "Oh, you beautiful thing," and then, "Oh, you fucking donkey." It's like a two-way street. Yeah. That's Dak Prescott and Josh Allen in the eyes of NFL fans. Dak Prescott's gonna have I think the best year of his career. They are as good as at receiver as they have been since Amari Cooper left. I love the Brandon Cooks edition, and I think
only 29, which is insane. He's been in the league for 10 years. This is his 10th year in the league. He's 29.
And their only other hole last year was corner 2. It was wide receiver 2, which they filled, and it was corner 2, which they filled with Stephon Gilmore with flying colors. I mean, he's still really good. This defense is absolutely loaded. They're better than Philadelphia's defense. Go look at who Philadelphia played on defense last year. They didn't play any good offenses. They're going to this year. Dallas put up 50 points against this Philly team last year. Like these teams, I said all year last year that Dallas and Philly were even, and I still stand by that. Dallas just ran into a really tough matchup with San Fran, and then San Fran wasn't able to throw a forward pass in the playoff game, so we really couldn't see that game in full. And Philly had the Mickey Mouse NFC path, whatever, Daniel Jones and then Josh Johnson, and they finally lose to a one-legged Mahomes. But watch out for Dallas. I think this is the best team in the NFC.
As we are sitting here, I now have Dallas over 9.5 wins in my bet slip, as well as I took their
that's absurd. Their schedule's tough, but this is a battle-tested team. For Philly's over to be 11.5 and Dallas's to be 9.5 with like Dallas still being inside of 1.5 to 1 to win the division is kind of crazy. Yeah, so if you want a Dallas value, I didn't even take them to win the division because I don't think the value's there at like plus 150. Mm-hmm. But making Super Bowl at 14 to 1 is very nice. And then sorry. Winning Super Bowl at 15 to 1, 5 to 1 to win the conference, and then 18 to 1 for Dak MVP.
Wow, I don't hate that at all. So let's do a little Super Bowl predictions because we're here, we're talking about it. It sounds like you have the Bengals from the AFC and the Cowboys from the NFC.
Yeah, so my final four, I have Cowboys. I have 3 of the same 4 teams from last year. I have Bengals versus Chiefs. This time going through Cincinnati, and then I have the NFC going through Dallas with the 14-win boys beating San Fran.
Damn.
So I have them playing for the 3rd straight year in Dallas, which same thing it was in 2021, but I have Dallas winning it finally, getting over the hump, and then I have the Bengals beating them in the Super Bowl. But I don't really
I love that.
Yeah.
I have struggled with an NFC team all year, and my dark horse was I said I wasn't going to sleep on the Seahawks. I like Pete Carroll.
It's a very popular May dark horse when there's still like 3 months left, and then you get to September and you're like, "Fuck, I'm really picking Geno Smith to make the Super Bowl."
I know.
What am I doing?
I went back because you view their season as a whole. It's like, oh well, they made the playoffs, like they were solid, and then you look at like Geno Smith's last 6 games, and you were like,
oh my god, he was terrible.
They limped into the playoffs. So I think I'm officially off that take. You might have talked me into the Cowboys. I don't quite know yet, but something about Kyle Shanahan and that 49ers team, like I love the way he coaches football. I love the way that they run the football. Their defense, they still have great linebackers and a great front seven. Their secondary is interesting. I feel like they're always a couple plays away. Like the 49ers secondary is so close, but they're not quite there. They were close against the Rams. I mean, that dropped interception, and that is the Rams don't make a Super Bowl, and that getting Stafford and spending all that money and trading all those picks seems like a complete and total failure, but history is written by the winners, and therefore they do seem like the champions. But I can't fall asleep on this 49ers team yet. There's a lot of compelling things at the top of the NFC. The bottom of the NFC is it's the NFC South. Like, does it matter who wins that division? I think it's going to be the Saints, maybe the Panthers. I do like Bryce Young is a winner. Like everybody, you can call him 5'10" and 180 pounds all you want, but he wins football games at the highest level. But does it matter who wins that division at all?
No, it doesn't. I think those games are all going to be really competitive, though. Like every single NFC South divisional game will be really competitive. All 12 of them. I think that's how that math works. But yeah, I have the Panthers at 9-8, and then the Saints at 8-9.
That's fair.
So pretty close.
All right, so week 1's here, baby. Week 1 is here. Let's take a look at it. The lines there are some lines that jump out at me right away, especially with some injury news and all that stuff. What are your favorite games from this week? What's your favorite plays from this week? Let's run down a little bit.
Yeah, man, the dogs are barking this week, and if you're not looking at the dogs, then you're doing the thing wrong. Week 1 dogs, especially division dogs, 65% last 10 years. Division dogs, Indy +4, Carolina +3, Green Bay +2. So I have all those as division dogs. Home dogs, same thing, Pitt +3. What else? New England +4.5 is, I think, probably my first bet that I placed in June when it came out. That's a ridiculous line. It opened all the way at 6, and I missed it.
It's down to 3.5 now.
Yeah, so I got 4.5. That's like a pretty egregious thing to say. Yeah, Bill Belichick, we're going to give you 6 months or however many months to prepare for this game. with a fully healthy defense. They're all back. And an Eagles team that went through like a disaster of an offseason, losing all your coaches and a couple of key players on defense. And we're going to lay 5 points on the road against Bill Belichick in week 1. That's like, this is like one of the things that people have to figure out. I have to really learn if they want to be real good at betting on football and professional football. It's, you can't take the Eagles in this spot. You either pass on the game because you don't believe in Mac Jones, or you take the Patriots. Like, you don't take the Eagles in this spot ever. This is never a situation where you should feel good about yourself going on the road against a Bill Belichick team with 5 months to prepare and the best defense in the league, I think, and lay almost a touchdown. Like, you just don't do that. Another thing that you should do is anytime that good old Mike Tomlin is a dog at home, you bet on him. It's like 65% the last 7, 8 years. We've seen the Niners really struggle early in games, and you have the angle of why is this line so low? And there's reasons. This is a team that was in the NFC Championship game last year, only laying a field goal on the road against Pittsburgh in week 1, a Pittsburgh team that nobody thinks is going to be any good, with Kenny Pickett, a second-year quarterback. Why is this line so low? And it's so low because Pittsburgh is really good at home, and Kenny Pickett is going to take a step forward. They're going to be a lot better, and San Fran, their September struggles are backed by trends, and it's like real, and it happens. They're not good in September. Go back to last year in a really weird monsoon game against Chicago. They lost and played like shit. Year before, same thing. So, yeah, I love Pittsburgh plus the 3. Similar ways of thinking, Tennessee plus 3. I'm not picking Derek Carr as a favorite in week 1. Vrabel as a dog is cash money. Getting the 3 with the field goal. First game with Derek Carr. I like Pete Carmichael and Derek Carr. I think that's a good match. Really good over the middle of the field with tight ends. Juwan Johnson, if you're playing fantasy. I don't, but I like Juwan Johnson, so you might want to take him as a late round tight end. When I used to play fantasy, I would always take my tight ends late, so I'd love finding 15th round tight ends and start them the whole year. And Juwan Johnson would be if I still play fantasy, he would be like a match made in heaven for me, because I think Derek Carr will be all right this year because he has a couple of good tight ends. Juwan Johnson I like. But anyways, Tennessee plus the 3. I think that those are my top 3. Tennessee, Pitt, and New England. And I like Dallas on Sunday night, which is crazy for me. I never lay 3 on the road in a division game. But
I was going to say that Dallas play goes against every trend that you said at the beginning. Is the home dog, division dog.
I know. So that's the only Dallas is the other than Buffalo on Monday night, and I didn't take the points. I laid the money line. That is the only favorite that I am betting on all week, and I have bet on every game except for 2. I'm betting on every dog in every game except for 2 games and except for Dallas, because I think that the Giants are that bad.
Fair. I love Brian Daboll as a head coach, but just long term, Daniel Jones just isn't. He's a guy. He's not the guy. He's a guy. The line for the Bengals-Browns game, is that under the assumption that Joe Burrow plays? Because I'm seeing it at -2.5. And
yeah, that's what it opened at. It opened at 2.5, so it's back to where it was when it started. There was some scariness in August because it had dropped all the way to 1, and then it's slowly creeped back up to 2.5, which is I think probably where it closes. I don't bet on Bengals games. I like to take the bias away from it, but if I were to, I would take Cleveland without a heartbeat or without a doubt for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland wins at all, and 2.5 points, so. But I'm not going to yell at you for taking Cincinnati. This is a spot where they can come out firing. They're more talented than Cleveland, but it's really close. So I would take Cleveland if I was doing it, but I don't bet on Bengals games.
Fair enough. Another game that we haven't talked about, but the line is interesting to me. The Commanders open as 7-point favorites to the Cardinals, and nothing about this Cardinals team it screams that they even want to attempt to win games this season. They are they're not far off of the getting the first pick odds. I think they will. I don't think Kyler Murray plays a snap this season. That being said, should a Sam Howell-led offense and this Washington defense that quite frankly, I don't believe in. I think their pass rushers are a little overrated, and the back end of their secondary isn't great. Should they be 7-point favorites on anybody? Because I don't think that's the case.
No, of course not. They have like a bottom 3 quarterback, and they have bottom 10 weapons and a very mid secondary. This team is not any good. I'm on Arizona here for, I think, a .8 unit play. I got 6.5. It's so gross. And like, unless like you bet on like volume bet on the NFL every week for 5 months, don't take it. But if you do, and if you do want plus EV bets, this is the bet that you take. Like, this is a bet that you make. Same thing with Indianapolis. It is so gross. Like, if you just want to throw $50 in a parlay and have a good time and throw some beers back, don't take this bet. But if you do want like to learn how to bet plus EV over the course of a 5-month-long season and go through the ups and downs, like, this is a bet that you have to make. And you made the point that they're absolutely going to be terrible this year, and they have a better chance to get Caleb Williams than anybody, or at least the number 1 overall pick, than ever. And that's true. But it is September. Teams don't tank in September. Even when that whole tank for Tua thing, nobody was tanking in September. Like, there were rumors of Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson, is that the Dolphins owner? Steven something.
Yes. Yeah.
Of him paying Brian Flores $1 million to tank. They still weren't tanking in September. The Dolphins, I think, won their week 1 game that year. So I hold back on that. Wait until at least mid-October, at least Halloween, to really figure out if teams care or not. And still by Halloween, over 3/4 of the league still cares. So you can really find value in the bad teams that actually still are trying. Arizona's going to try. I don't know who's playing quarterback. I kind of hope it's Peyton Tune. So I kind of hope it is. But if it's Colt McCoy,
Clayton Tune was fun at Houston. Like, I wouldn't
Clayton.
hate to see
Why did I say Peyton?
Clayton
Tune. Yes, yeah. Clayton Tune.
But I would love to see him get a shot.
Yes, this is a weird game. A game that will be. You know what's funny? I'm actually going to be in Nashville this weekend. I'm leaving on Sunday at 5 a.m. to get back for a 6-hour drive so I can watch the games. And this game will probably be on my laptop. It will not reach my TV at all, but I'll watch it because I have money on it. Colt McCoy and Sam Howell, it's nasty. But if you do want some plus EV bets, this is a bet you have to make, and just put your nose down. See, they're calling you. They're telling you to bet Arizona plus 6.5.
Yeah, and it's going to be disgusting, but I'm going to do it. Another bet that I like is, and I don't feel great about it, so tell me if I'm wrong, but Raiders Broncos over 44. It feels disgusting. It feels like a crock of shit. It feels like everybody, this line should be like 38. Have you seen what that offense looked like last year? And then now with the Raiders are going to be like, this Raiders team still has Josh Jacobs and Devonta Adams. Like, they are still going to be able to move the ball. The Raiders were not the worst team in the league offensively last season. And the Broncos, I understand that they were bad, but they are not going to be that horrible. And for that total to be 44 just seems very, very low to me.
You know what's funny? I love when people come at me or come at people and tell them what a line should be, and they have no background in data science, no background in modeling. They have no idea how to code. They've never used a model before, and they have no idea like what CLV is. So they tell me what a line should be, and then they have no experience in anything that has to do with like making lines or trading or anything. So if someone ever tells you that, just tell them, well, like, just fuck off because you don't know what you're talking about. And there's never a situation in an NFL line or even in a total where a line is off by 6 points of what it should be. So if they're telling you a total should be 6 points lower or 6 points higher than it is, they are wrong, and their math, if they even did the math, is incorrect. I don't really do totals early in the year. I did take the under in Thursday night game. That's kind of like it. Like I will not take an over the first month of the season, not until numbers stabilize and I really figure out who's good and who's not. I'll take unders. Like I'll bet on like games to be shitty and sloppy, which is a good angle to have early in the year. But overs, not my style early in the year. I don't really take overs in general, period. But Yeah, like I agree with you. Like I think Vegas is going to be able to score this year. I think they're going to be bad, but they're not going to be dreadful. That like their badness is going to be more because of the defense, and it's a good matchup for Russ in Week 1 to get off to a hot start in a divisional game against a team that has pretty much no idea what they're doing on one side of the ball, and that's Vegas. And like they're going to be really bad this year, but it's not going to be because of Jimmy G. It's not going to be because of Josh Jacobs.
Yep. That defense is going to stink. Just as a long-term option, that coach in Vegas he's not it. I don't know why he ever thought it was going to be it. Like it's hearing him talk every week. It's just like he just seems like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I have no idea why he's still there. And McDaniels is just like, I mean, he's awful. Like they want to bring in Jimmy G. Well, Brian Grease is sitting right there as the Niners quarterbacks coach. Like he's sitting right in your lap. You want to bring in Jimmy G, bring in someone he knows with him instead of having him learn this whole McDaniel system that like forced Derek Carr out of Oakland or like out of Vegas. Like the system is not working anymore. It forced a stable quarterback into leaving where he has called home for almost a decade. So I don't necessarily think it's gonna work with Jimmy G. I'm a Jimmy G guy, but I certainly have my doubts about this. For sure, and yeah, he's gone after this year. Like if they win under 7 games, which is like window dressing if they don't, he's done.
All right, so I love a good in-game environment, and courtesy of SeatGeek, we're going to take a look at some of the best environments for this season. And Jake, if you had to go to any game all season long, what would be your like, hey, this is the one that I am absolutely dialed into?
Bengals Chiefs AFC Championship game in Cincinnati. No, I'm just kidding. The Bengals Bills Sunday night game is going to be so electric, man. After what happened on Monday night, and now like those teams have kind of been seen as like friendly rivals, especially the fan bases. But no, like those teams are now like friendly rivals now because of what they did for each other after the Damar Hamlin thing on Monday night. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be fire, man. So I'm trying to get tickets to go to those games. So maybe your code can help me out there.
Yeah, if you are using SeatGeek, use promo code SmashHitSports. You'll get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek, and that game is $241, the get-in price. It is the most expensive game on the Bengals schedule this season, and it seems like for good reason because that's going to be a damn good matchup. I mean, that might be a matchup for one of the top seeds in the AFC. So. If I had to pick one, I was also going Bengals. You said Bengals Chiefs, and I was just like, God damn it, don't take my pick, dude. But then you said AFC Championship, so I felt a little better. I'm trying to hit a couple of road games this year, and Bengals at Kansas City New Year's Eve, I think would be absolutely electric. $177 on SeatGeek there, but I want to go into Kansas City because those fans they're vicious on Twitter, and I want to see if they're that way in person. Because
I was there at Arrowhead in January last year.
Are they just as bad in real life as they are in person, just from a shit-talking standpoint?
Dude, I was getting bullied for 4 hours. I can't believe we didn't win.
God, it's brutal. It's brutal. Look at that. Like, there are just so many things from last season that it's like, oh, shit, that happened. Like, oh, wow. Like, it's crazy to me that we are now just a few short days away from real, legitimate football being back on our TVs every Saturday and Sunday. Just welcome home, sweet prince, back onto my TV. I cannot wait. Jake, do you have any imparting words of wisdom as we get into this NFL season before we get out of here? And where can everybody find? Because, look, your picks, the numbers speak for themselves. You were up 54 units last year. I mean, that's not – people talk all the shit they want, and then they don't back it up. You back it up each and every week. Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, on Twitter at Jake Sirkus. That's Sirkus. Little Cirk in the. Can they see that? Can they see my name? The Cirk.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. When I edit it, so your Twitter @ will be on the video in YouTube. That's
let's
for sure.
Go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, I post my full cards there. I finished the NFL season with 10 straight winning weeks last year. I had 3 losing weeks all year. It was a fun ride. We're hoping to not have some like immediate instant regression, so I'm kind of scared of that. But like I think that my process is as good as anybody's. So if you want plus EV bets, No parlays, no player props, none of that fucking bullshit. And follow me on Twitter. All my picks are there. We have a big card week 1, so we'll see. I actually really like the board in week 1. Like, I don't say that very often, but I really do like this board in week 1, Cody.
Hell yes, dude. It's always because everybody says, "Oh, I love the board this week. Oh, I love the board this week." But when you actually when you feel it, it'll be good when it hits, right? It's a good feeling, man. It's a damn good feeling.
Getting started with the pick an MVP campaign, dicing that Niners defense week 1, 10 a.m.
Bro, don't get me nervous. I got enough Steelers fans in my mentions that I don't need them to come in here with some irrational confidence, but. We appreciate you all for giving us a listen. If you like this content, share with a friend. Be a friend, tell a friend. That's the best way to help out the show. That and you SeatGeek. I mean, they're pretty cool too. But more importantly, share this. And we will see you guys in the next one.